believe that the drug law, what we had initially was weak in the sense that we know there are some suspects, where some people sometimes you find a suspect when it comes to the importation or the selling of the drugs, and they are arrested and taken to the police station. After a day or two, they will be released based on bail. So we don't want it to be bailable, because we believe once they are out, they get right back to the market or right back to business as usual. So we decided to make it stronger. When you know that you are caught with drugs and it's non-bailable, I mean, you will have to think twice before you venture into such business or such activities. So the law that was passed today, it is non-bailable for those that are into the selling, the importation, and everything, with the exception of the end users.
We're talking about illicit drugs, right?
Yes, illicit drugs, to be precise, yes. So with the exception of the end users, because they are the victim, we rather need to see how best we can have them rehabilitated. There's also provisions in our law that speaks to rehabilitation, because we just don't want to have them, getting them off the street. What happens? How do you rehabilitate them? How do they fit into society again to become or to continue being our brothers and sisters that we can all live together with in peace and harmony?
Telegraphy, with the concurrence of the drugs law in by the Liberian Senate, the issue of implementation in Liberia is among several other issues that the country faces. Are you contemplating on making sure that the executive implements the law that's been made by the legislature today?
Of course, yes. That's why we will exercise our oversight responsibility when it comes to that. There's something we have struggled for the past time, and this is where we are. So we know that once you are caught with drugs and you are guilty, you are supposed to be in prison, even pending further investigation. We don't want to see you plying the street where you have access to doing more than what you did or what you were arrested for. So we are going to ensure that the executive will be able to implement to the fullest.
Now, if you say you join any particular thing, it's because of the benefits it will bring to you. Tell exactly what benefits you're going to derive from this drug law, particularly for your own area in Magiri County.
The number one benefit is that there's measure put into place that would allow you to think twice. There are people who are heavily involved with drugs, illicit drugs, and they do it on purpose with the mind that we all know drugs is something that has money. I will do it, and once I'm arrested, I will go and maybe I will call my colleague or my counterpart to come and bail me out, and the next day I'll be on the street making sure that I sell more than what I sold before to be able to maybe bulldoze my way through the system. So now that you know, staying with it, you are going to be in prison and it's non-bailable, I mean, you have to think twice to know. So I believe that it's a measure put in place to serve as deterrent to others that think they can just do what they want to do and they will be seen outside. The same thing we have with the rape law.
This passage of the law came at a time we already have a case at hand that has to do with several $million worth of drugs.
Yeah.
Tell us, is this going to affect that particular case?
The law is in a way that we say it's not retroactive. So the law was it's just passed into law. So that case is already dead, and I understand that the matter is being investigated. I don't know how far the executive is gone. When I say the executive, the police, the judiciary system. So we can also ask to know where they are. But this law now will allow you to know that if you are caught in a situation like that, imagine if this thing has happened after this thing was passed into a law, the drug law. If we had it prior to the situation, what would have happened? How can you explain to the Liberian people how you managed to have that quantity of cocaine amongst your frozen food? So you know that alone you're going to jail and it is going to be non-bailable. So now the businesses, the business people, they know that they have to pay attention, they have to watch, because there will be no excuse, there will be no escape route for that easily. So I can say to you, I believe that it will not be applied, or it might not. Let me use the word might not. I don't know how the securities are going to investigate that, or the judiciary system, so I don't want to preempt. But I believe if we had this law on the books prior to what occurred, the story would have been different, trust me.
All right, so my name is Springs, and I report for Pram FM and Focus on Liberia based in the US. So I have two concerns. The first has to do with the implementation process that my colleagues asked. The issue of implementation in Liberia is a problem. When laws are passed, they on the book, and then you cannot feel the impact on the citizens. How can Liberians hold the legislature responsible for that? A second aspect is the Liberian way to say the big man thing. Some months ago, this very legislature was been accused of having drug laws among them. That case, in my opinion, that investigation, the public is yet to know what happened to what the official of the DA has said that, and what the legislature has done about that. So, I mean, those are other things that Liberians will be looking at. You see how the drugs is all over Liberia. Every part of Liberia drugs are there, and the allegation is that some of those who are bringing drugs in the country might be in government or are in government. How can Liberians hold you responsible as legislators?
Okay, I will say to you that the legislators or the legislators, sorry, are not to be held responsible for the implementation part. We are to be held responsible for our oversight responsibility. So we pass the law and we say this thing is non-violable. And we realize that there's an issue or there's a situation where the executive is supposed to play their part and they are not playing their part, and we don't exercise our oversight responsibility, it becomes an issue. And I will say to you also that now that we have passed this law, it is our duty to check, to follow suit and ensure that everything that we pass in this law, it is implemented to the fullest. We understand that it is no big man thing, because I would say there's no other way that I can manage my words, but we all know karma, what karma is. For lack of better words, I will tell you, excuse my French, but karma is a bitch. It has a way of haunting people back. So if you think you're a big man or a big woman today and you get yourself involved into drugs, it might come back to haunt you. If the society is not safe, the end users that we refer to them as Zocos, but I like to call them the disadvantaged youth. You who claim to be the big person, you are still not at peace. You cannot move around freely. They come to you either to harass you, to beg you, or to torture you, or to take advantage of you. So you're not just doing it to them, you're also doing it to yourself. And in the case where the legislature was accused, I expect the accuser to come with strong facts and say what he or she knew at the time, to see how we could mitigate the issue to ensure that justice prevail. Few months ago, we were able to pass the Whistleblower Protection Act. So now it gives the authority to protect whosoever that will come with sensitive information of such. Maybe we didn't have it at that time, so the officer that came, she really couldn't say anything because she had no legal reliance. But now that we have that, you can refer to that. You can use that to bargain to say, because of this law, I want to speak to you and say exactly what I know, and I will be protected at the end of the day. So it was one of the reasons why we saw it prudent enough to pass that bill.
Okay, so let me
from my before you come in. So the issue of, the uses of drugs, in my opinion, or is a sector has been a habit for the end users. It's a way of life. So minimizing the drugs in the country is good, but then also having them rehabilitated in the society is also another one. We are worked with drug users for years. Once they do not take the drug, there should be something. There should be a way to take it from them, but not forcefully. So, how are you going to mitigate in between that, making sure that drugs are in the country, and then the end users are also safe?
So let me just do a follow-up. Let me just do a follow-up to that question. My follow-up is in line with the issue of punishment. How is the punishment, as far as this law is concerned, going to be applied? Is it going to be equal with respect to the producer, the supplier, the buyer, and end users? How severe are the punishment going to apply to each of these category of people?
It's going to be severe, but I can tell you that it's not going to be equal, because as I said earlier, it is non-billable for the importers, for the sellers, not the users, because we believe that sometimes in our simple English we say simple mistake you out, right? It might be your first attempt and you go astray. You are already the victim. So at that point in time, if you didn't see it, to buy it, to take it, you wouldn't have been in that category. So I don't see why you should be penalized the same way as the compared to the importers. So it is not going to be equal. But in terms of the importers, those that are the distributors, the ones that are selling it or even making it, because I heard they got all sort of substances that they mix together just to satisfy the desire of our society or people in our society, it is not going to bear the same punishment. And what we need to do, we cannot do it individually. Like this year, July 26th, I had a program for the disadvantaged youth in Kakata, and I realized that there are some of them who are in need of the change. They are willing. So I've contacted 2 persons to see how we can get a few of them to go to the rehabilitation center. But on the national level, it's something that we need to do and ensure that there are places, centers in the various counties that we can send them there for the rehabilitation. That will not be, the budget will not be on an individual, because we want the sustainability, we want it to live forever. While we have that measure in place to ensure that they are rehabilitated to be part of society and normal as before, we also need to ensure that it will be a long-term project. If you ask me, I will say forever, because at this point, I don't want to lie to anybody. We will not just eradicate the uses of the illicit drugs, but we can try to minimize it until we can get there in subsequent time.
It is reported mainly that drug traffickers are protected by our own securities here. How is this law going to apply to people who are involved in that kind of thing? You're a police officer, then you protect a drug dealer, he stay in your house, you distribute the drugs or around. So how this law is going to affect police officers or any other officer involved in this kind of thing?
It is alleged, and I will say to you that it is true that we all know that all around the world, the drug cartel is something huge. We know it. We are not going to pretend we will not ignore it. But if you know that I was doing this thing because I know once I am caught, my partner exon me, I am an officer, right? And I'm assigned at this checkpoint, and I know that this person always in and out with drugs, and I don't raise the issue. Or if even I'm caught and I know that that person will know that I'm his or her interest, she will come to bail me out. So that was my reliance at that time. But now, it's not going to be bailable. So once it is not bailable, you know that you're risking everything to be there until you can go to trial. And we know the time here, the time we got to adjudicate cases, considering our terms of court. Do you think you want to be in prison for time indefinite until you can go through the process? You wouldn't want to do that. If you think and you know what you have at stake, you are a family person and you want your freedom, I don't think you will easily venture into such. But because I believe strongly that we did not have that in place, that's why people were doing things what they wanted to do and they were walking away easily.
Attoh, a few months ago within your district, you had a serious hollow battle with this unjust issue within your district where somebody was killed as well. What are you putting in place to do away with?
Come again? I didn't.
A few months ago, there was a incident within your district and the county as well, where we had a series of just activities. Somebody was killed as well, and statistic came out that your districts alone, just District 2, have over 50 to 60 ghettos. What are you doing to, based upon this law that has been passed today, what are you doing to eradicate them?
It is alarming. That's what I said. If you follow my conversation earlier, that in July, I had the pre-July 26th celebration with the disadvantaged youth, the end users. Reason why I did it, I wanted to hear from them. I wanted to know where they get those substances from, to see how we can distract them from going that route. So it was to get to know them, because you cannot be far from them to know exactly what's going on. So because we know how risky it is and how alarming it is, I follow Senator Yomdekana Lawrence as well, where she has the ambassadors in Grand Bassa County, and I talked to her to know the rationale behind that, and I realized that we're a group of young people who are into the preaching of the usage of illicit drugs, menstrual hygiene, unwanted pregnancy, early pregnancy, and other things. So after our partner with one, we're able to also launch the same program in Kakata, for which the facilitators were able to spot out 20 young ambassadors. So we have them, they are working closely. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I stand to be corrected, 2 of the ambassadors were able to raise level when it comes to rape, alleged rape. So that was how my political officers, along with few members of the office, escalated the issue and the police got involved. So we are also training the younger ones because we realize that we need all hands on board. It is nothing strange to us. We know even in the schools, the children will take the cayenne, they take the milk candy and other stuff. So it is not just the direct drugs, or it is not just taking only in ghettos. You may have your child at home, not knowing your child is heavily hooked up on some substance for all you know. So we have the younger ones in the schools at the community level to be able to monitor and report some of these cases. So those are measures that we put in place, and I believe that other colleagues are also doing so, or they might start to do it in their districts, in the counties, so that we know that collectively we will be able to achieve what we want.
So finally, assuming this law had not been passed, what do you think will have happened to our society?
Okay, maybe given the benefits, and he's saying yes.
Many of our Facebook viewers from here have welcomed the decision from you as legislature, saying that this is the kind of news we want to hear. If you're even watching from different places, I saw somebody making comment from the US. One of my colleagues on online television. But my question here is, are you making any effort to consult the executive in terms of executive approval? President Weah is away.
President Weah is away, but I believe the government is not shut down. He's away, but he has people in office, and obviously this law was passed by the House of Representatives. Today the Senate passed it. It's going to go to President Weah for him to approve it as per the law. So he has the power according to the Constitution. So now the Liberian people, we are watching President Weah. Our eyes, our focus, everything directed to him. I don't see why he would want to see the kind of law and that passing, knowing how we are crying on a daily basis. So it is on him now to do the necessary thing in the interest of the Liberian people. It's not a bad law, so we are looking forward to him, and I believe strongly he's going to come back and affix his signature to the instrument that will be sent to him.
So back to my question, had the law not been passed, what do you think will happen to our society?
We were going down the drain. It is on the increase. We got one of the journalists who is from Kakata. The reason why he asked, and he also explained one of the incidents that led to the death. It's not they wanted 2, 3, no. And what motivated me to have that program on the 26th of July is because we're trying to prevent. We are not just focusing on the ones that are already the victim. We are trying to prevent the other ones, the clean ones, from getting into it. So if we don't start now, I don't see where. So now they know that if we see you with the drugs, imagine example, we have somebody, a teenager who has drug, but you might not be the one taking it, but you might be the one who helping. We know that they also exploit our children. Take this thing and take it to that person. The case where that happened on the Beaumont's road, you can attest to that. The child was only used as a transporter. They just packed the thing and gave it to her, say, and carry it to uncle over there and give it to him and leave, not knowing she was used. So now we will educate our children, our society to the fullest to know it is risky to not get involved, because if you are caught, it's going to be non-bailable.
Okay, thank you very much.
Let's shift a little bit, just 1 minute. Let's shift a little bit. Today, the Senate has, joined you, the House of Representatives, signed a resolution to extend the most talked about controversial census date to the 15th of January next year.
Yes.
What informed that decision? That's 1. 2, how do you think a Liberian going to receive that?
For the record, I'm one of those that signed for the extension, because from all indication we stated was one of those that were opting for the postponement or cancellation, because from the explanation that I follow from leges as well as those that's supposed to be carrying on the actual activities, I knew that we weren't ready. But however, it was passed that the census should start from the 7th, between the 7th to the 22nd. And it was also announced by the president that the process starts on tomorrow, the 11th of November. So we thought it wise to see how best we could save the face of the country. We could save the country from getting into any chaotic situation by extending the period to create room that there will be an opportunity to fix whatever mistakes that will occur. Because I can tell you, even though I'm not God, but from my political and my normal lenses, I can tell you that I foresee some shortcomings, some faults. It is no secret. 2 or 3 days ago, we had people protesting in Grand Bassa County. The gadgets that they are supposed to use, the way the trainings were conducted in some of the areas, the noise and all that, they really couldn't really grab it. And I felt that it would have been more practical to have the gadget show them the steps to know what is going to be like, that the data will be automatically uploaded to the server and to see. So I just feel that the process was short, but how can we fix it? We cannot fix it by undoing the entire thing, but at least to extend the period that in case of any mistakes, we will be able to fix it. So extending the period to January 15th, I think it was wise enough versus November 22nd. Starting on November 7th to end, conclude November 22nd, I felt it was unrealistic. And this is what we are still having issues. But I also read last night that they started paying some of the people, sorry, it is coming down a little bit, but I believe that we still need to have that window as grace period and to safeguard the process to avoid, because what we want is the actual results, the actual data. We have not had census for a while, and we are long beyond, way beyond the schedule. But I don't think because of that we should be in a hurry to do the wrong thing. We should do it the right way.
We should not be in the hurry to do the wrong thing. We should do it the right way. The voice of Honorable Ellen Attoh, District Number 3 Representative Maggie Bikambi. Thank you very much for speaking to legislative voters.
Thank you for your work. I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. My name is Prince Moba. This is Focus on Liberia. The voice you heard there is the voice of Honorable Ellen Attoh. She represents Maikebe District Number 3 at the first representative, the 54 legislature. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.
The document